The maid collapsed right in front of him, her body hitting the floor with a dull thud. For a moment, there was nothing but silence until someone screamed. Owen O'Donnell rushed forward, dropping the mop he had been using. His heart pounded in his chest as he knelt beside the woman. "Hey! Hey, can you hear me?" he called, shaking her shoulder gently. The other staff hesitated, staring in shock. A manager, a middle-aged man with thinning hair, finally stepped forward. "She's fine. She just does this sometimes," the man muttered, waving a hand dismissively. "Give her a few minutes." Owen's jaw tightened. "She just fainted in the middle of her shift." "She's not fine." The manager sighed, clearly annoyed. "She works too hard, that's all. She'll get up. We don't have time for this." That was it. That was the moment Owen knew something was deeply wrong in this hotel. A week earlier, he had been in his corporate office, staring at a report that made his stomach twist. He had bought the hotel chain 10 years ago, built it up from near bankruptcy, and turned it into a respected name. But lately, complaints had been piling up. Rooms not cleaned properly. Guests waiting hours for service. Staff looking exhausted. He had asked his district managers for answers, but their responses had been vague. "We're just short-staffed," they said. "We're working on it." But Owen wasn't convinced. So he made a decision. He shaved his usual beard, dyed his hair a lighter brown, and put on thick-rimmed glasses. His tailored suits were replaced with a simple housekeeping uniform. No one working in the hotels had ever met him in person. His face wasn't plastered on company walls. To them, he would be just another new hire. He planned to work in 5 different locations. 5 hotels, 5 undercover shifts. He needed to see the truth for himself. His first shift had been brutal. Housekeeping was understaffed badly. 3 people were doing the work of 6. The moment he walked in, the head housekeeper, Maria Fernandez, had shoved a mop into his hands. "You're the new guy, right? No time for training. Start with the lobby. And don't mess up." Owen had nodded, rolling up his sleeves. He wasn't afraid of hard work. But within an hour, he saw why people were struggling. There weren't enough supplies. The carts were old and falling apart. The vacuums barely worked. And the workload? Impossible. Maria, a woman in her 50s with tired eyes, worked faster than anyone. She never stopped moving. She cleaned. She organized. She helped guests. She did everything. And Owen noticed something else. She never took a break. By the time the afternoon shift rolled around, Owen was exhausted. His back ached. His hands were raw from scrubbing. But Maria was still going, still cleaning, still pushing herself harder than anyone else. Then, just as she stepped forward to grab another set of towels, she collapsed. And the manager did nothing. Owen clenched his fists. "She needs help," he said firmly. The manager scoffed. "She just overworks herself. I tell her to slow down, but she won't listen. She's stubborn. She's dedicated," Owen snapped. "And you're letting her burn herself out." Maria groaned softly, her eyelids fluttering. She was coming around, but she looked pale, drained. "Maria, can you hear me?" Owen asked. She blinked up at him, her face twisting in embarrassment. I'm fine. Just got a little dizzy." "You fainted," Owen said. "You need to sit down." But she pushed herself up, wobbling. "I can't. There's too much work." Owen looked around at the other maids. Some of them wouldn't even meet his eyes. They were afraid. "Does this happen a lot?" he asked, his voice sharp. No one answered, but the silence was enough. Owen turned back to Maria. "When was the last time you took a break?" She hesitated. The manager crossed his arms. "She takes breaks when she needs to. But we all have work to do. If you can't handle it, maybe this job isn't for you." Owen's blood boiled. This was his company, his hotel, and this was how his employees were being treated. He wasn't going to let this stand. But first, he needed to see just how deep the problem went. Owen watched as Maria struggled to regain her balance. Her breathing was shallow, and her hands trembled slightly. She was trying to act like nothing had happened, but it was clear she was barely holding herself together. The manager, still standing with his arms crossed, let out an impatient sigh. "Maria, if you need to sit, go ahead. But we need those rooms turned over before the next check-in rush." Maria nodded weakly, but Owen could see the hesitation in her eyes. She didn't want to stop. She was afraid to. Owen reached out, steadying her by the elbow. You shouldn't be working right now. You need water, food, something. Maria shook her head. I can't afford to fall behind. The weight of her words settled over him like a stone. This wasn't just about pride. It was about survival. She was pushing herself past her limits because she felt she had no other choice. Owen turned to the manager, his voice cold. Is anyone going to cover her work while she recovers? The man scoffed. We don't have that kind of flexibility. Everyone's already stretched thin. Owen clenched his jaw. He had seen enough. He needed to understand exactly how bad things were. That night, after finishing his shift, he sat in his car and pulled out a notebook. He wrote down every issue he had seen: understaffing, broken equipment, lack of support. He needed more information. Tomorrow, he would dig deeper. The next morning, Owen arrived early, slipping into the staff break room before most of the team had shown up. The space was small, dimly lit with a flickering fluorescent light overhead. A vending machine sat in one corner, nearly empty, and the lone coffee maker looked like it hadn't been cleaned in weeks. Maria was already there, sitting at the worn-out table, nursing a cup of weak coffee. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes. Owen hesitated before sitting across from her. How are you feeling? She offered a tired smile. Better. Just need to pace myself. He glanced around the break room. Does the hotel provide meals for staff? Maria shook her head. Only management gets meal vouchers. The rest of us bring our own food, or we buy from the vending machine. Owen frowned. That's not right. You're on your feet all day. You should be getting proper meals. Maria shrugged. It's just how it is. The door opened, and a few more workers trickled in, chatting quietly among themselves. Owen noticed how subdued they were. There was no laughter, no casual conversation, just weary faces and quiet murmurs. A younger woman, probably in her 20s, sat down next to Maria and unwrapped a small sandwich. She looked over at Owen. You're the new guy, right? He nodded. Yeah. First week. She smirked slightly. Still got the energy to complain about the workload? He raised an eyebrow. You saying it gets worse? Maria let out a dry chuckle. Give it time. You'll see. Owen leaned forward. What happens when someone gets sick? Or needs a day off? The younger woman scoffed. You don't take days off unless you absolutely have to. And even then, good luck getting coverage. Maria nodded. We're always short-staffed. If someone calls out, the rest of us just have to pick up the slack. Owen processed that in silence. It was worse than he thought. The workload was already unbearable, and if someone needed time off, the others had to work even harder? That wasn't sustainable. His next shift confirmed everything. He was assigned to a floor with Maria, tasked with flipping rooms. The moment they stepped into the first suite, she was moving at a pace that barely seemed human, stripping beds, wiping surfaces, restocking supplies. Owen struggled to keep up, his muscles already aching from the previous day. But what struck him most was how much was expected in so little time. How long do we have for each room? He asked. Maria glanced at the clock. 15 minutes, sometimes less. He blinked. That's impossible. She shrugged. It's what we have to do. Owen worked as quickly as he could, but he kept noticing things: stained carpets that needed deep cleaning but were ignored due to lack of time, broken fixtures that had been patched up instead of properly repaired. Then, as they entered another room, Maria muttered under her breath. Damn it. No clean towels again. Owen frowned. Aren't they supposed to be stocked every morning? Maria sighed. Laundry services are behind. They cut staff there too, so now we're running out constantly. Owen's frustration grew. Every corner of this operation was failing because of understaffing and poor management. By the end of the shift, his entire body ached. He couldn't imagine doing this every day for years with no real support. But Maria and the others had no choice. That night, he checked the financial reports for the hotel. The numbers didn't add up. The hotel was making solid profits. There was no reason for these cost-cutting measures. Someone, somewhere, was making decisions that put profits over people. And he was going to find out who. Owen sat at the edge of his stiff hotel bed, staring at the financial reports spread out on his laptop screen. The numbers confirmed what he already suspected: this wasn't a case of a struggling business cutting costs to survive. The hotel was turning a solid profit. Yet, employees were overworked, essential departments were understaffed, and basic supplies were running low. Someone had made the choice to squeeze the operation for every dollar, and it wasn't because they had to, it was because they wanted to. The next morning, Owen arrived early again, blending in with the housekeeping team as they gathered for the daily briefing. Maria looked worn out but determined, her fingers gripping a clipboard as she hurriedly jotted down notes. The atmosphere in the room was tense. A few workers whispered to each other, throwing uneasy glances toward the door. Then, the general manager, Lucas Spencer, strode in. He was a tall man with slicked-back hair and a crisp suit that didn't belong anywhere near the physically demanding work his employees faced. His expression was one of mild irritation, as if simply being in the same room as the staff was an inconvenience. "Listen up," Lucas said, adjusting his tie. "We had multiple guest complaints yesterday about slow room turnover. That's unacceptable. I don't care how short-staffed we are, you need to move faster." Maria pressed her lips together, her grip tightening on the clipboard. Owen kept his expression neutral, but his blood boiled. Faster? They were already pushing themselves to exhaustion. One of the younger maids, a woman named Dana, hesitated before speaking. "Sir, we're already covering extra rooms because of the staff cuts. We're trying, but there's only so much." Lucas cut her off with a sharp look. "Excuses don't solve problems. If you want to keep your job, you'll figure it out." Owen clenched his fists. He had seen enough weak leaders in his career to recognize one immediately. Lucas wasn't interested in solutions, he was interested in squeezing every ounce of effort out of his workers while keeping costs down. Maria cleared her throat. "Sir, we're running low on fresh towels again. The laundry team is struggling to keep up." Lucas rolled his eyes. "Then reuse the ones that seem clean. Guests will never notice." A murmur of discomfort ran through the room. Owen couldn't stay quiet any longer. "That's not sanitary." Lucas's gaze snapped toward him. "Who are you?" Owen met his stare. "New hire. Just pointing out that reusing towels isn't a good practice." Lucas scoffed. "We're in the hospitality business. That means keeping costs low and making things look good. As long as the guests don't notice, it's fine." Owen wanted to tear into him right there, but he forced himself to hold back. This wasn't the time for the reveal, he needed to gather more. The meeting ended with no real solutions, just more pressure on the workers. As they filed out, Maria stopped Owen with a quiet voice. "Be careful questioning him. He doesn't like being challenged." Owen nodded, filing that away. He had dealt with people like Lucas before, managers who thought fear was the best way to lead. It never lasted. Later that day, Owen slipped into the back office when he saw the door slightly ajar. Inside, Lucas sat at his desk, speaking on the phone. Owen stayed just out of sight, listening. "I don't care if the staff is complaining," Lucas said, his voice dripping with impatience. "We're on track to increase profit margins by another 5% this quarter. If that means cutting more costs, then do it." A pause. "Yes, I know corporate will ask questions, but I'll handle it. As long as they see the numbers improving, no one cares how it happens." Owen's stomach twisted. That was it. Lucas wasn't cutting costs out of necessity, he was doing it to personally impress higher-ups, likely angling for a promotion. Owen stepped back before he was seen, his mind already working through his next move. The breaking point came that evening. After an exhausting day, Maria and Dana were still working late, trying to catch up on rooms that had fallen behind. Owen stayed to help, refusing to let them struggle alone. That's when Lucas walked in. "You're still not done?" he asked, his voice sharp with irritation. Maria wiped sweat from her brow. "We're moving as fast as we can, sir." Lucas shook his head in disappointment. "This is why we can't give raises. If productivity is this low, there's no justification for higher wages." Owen had heard enough. He stepped forward, his voice firm. "Maybe if you staffed properly, people wouldn't be collapsing in the hallways." Lucas narrowed his eyes. "Excuse me." Owen pulled off his glasses, straightening to his full height. "I said, maybe if you weren't running this place into the ground, your employees wouldn't be passing out from exhaustion." A stunned silence filled the room. Lucas blinked, confusion flickering across his face before realization set in. Who the hell are you?" Owen took a step closer. "Owen O'Donnell, owner of this hotel chain." Gasps rippled through the room. Dana's hand flew to her mouth. Maria's eyes widened in shock. Lucas paled. "That's not possible." Owen pulled out his phone, tapping a few buttons before turning the screen toward Lucas. His own corporate bio stared back at them. You've been cutting costs to boost your own numbers, Owen continued, his voice like steel. You've been overworking your staff to the point of collapse. And today you suggested reusing dirty towels to save money. That ends now. Lucas opened his mouth, scrambling for words. Mr. O'Donnell, I was just... Save it, Owen cut him off. You don't belong in a leadership position. As of this moment, you're fired. Lucas's face turned red. You can't just... I own this company, Owen interrupted. I can and I just did. Security will escort you out. Lucas stared at him, stunned, before storming out of the room. Owen turned to the staff. Things are going to change. Effective immediately, we're hiring more staff. No one should be working themselves to exhaustion just to keep up. Salaries are being reviewed, and break policies are being enforced. If anyone has concerns, my office is open. Maria's eyes glistened. Thank you. Owen nodded. No, thank you. You kept this place running despite the conditions. That won't be ignored anymore. As he looked around, seeing the relief and cautious hope on their faces, he knew one thing for sure: he would never let himself become disconnected from his employees again. Owen stood in the center of the staff lounge, his presence commanding attention. The weight of what he had just done still hung in the air. Lucas was gone. The man who had driven this hotel into the ground with his ruthless cost-cutting and disregard for his employees had been removed. But Owen knew that firing one person wasn't enough. The damage ran deeper than just one bad manager. Maria sat at the worn-out table, her hands wrapped around a cup of water. The exhaustion in her eyes hadn't faded, but there was something else now: relief. Dana leaned against the counter, processing everything. The others, still in shock, whispered among themselves. Owen turned to Maria. I need to know everything. Not just about Lucas, but about the way this hotel has been running. Tell me what's broken. Maria hesitated for only a moment before placing her cup down. Where do I start? Dana crossed her arms. The way we're treated. That's a good place. Owen pulled out a chair and sat down. Tell me. Maria took a steadying breath. It's not just the workload. It's how we're seen. Like we're disposable. If someone gets hurt, they're pressured to keep working. If we ask for time off, we get attitude from management. And raises? She let out a dry laugh. Haven't had one in years. Dana nodded. Supplies are another problem. We run out of basics all the time: soap, fresh linens, even gloves. We ask for more, but we're told to make do. Another housekeeper, an older man named Reggie, spoke up for the first time. The equipment's falling apart. Half the vacuums barely work, and when one breaks, we're told there's no budget to replace it. Owen absorbed every word. This wasn't just mismanagement. It was neglect. He turned to Maria. What about the guests? Have they noticed? Maria nodded. Some do. We try our best, but when we're rushing, details get missed. Stains don't get cleaned properly. Furniture isn't wiped down the way it should be. We're ashamed of it, but we can only do so much with what we have. Owen leaned back, his jaw tightening. This was worse than he had imagined. It wasn't just about poor working conditions. It was about the reputation of the entire company. If guests started realizing the decline in service, word would spread. And once a hotel's reputation was damaged, it was nearly impossible to recover. He stood abruptly. This ends today. The staff exchanged uncertain glances. Maria furrowed her brow. What do you mean? Owen's voice was firm. I'm making changes immediately. I don't need corporate approval for this. I own the company. The first thing we're doing is fixing staffing. We're hiring more housekeepers, effective right away. Dana's eyes widened. You mean actually hiring, not just saying we will? Yes, Owen said without hesitation. And wages are being reviewed across the board. No more excuses. Reggie let out a low whistle. I'll believe it when I see it. You will, Owen assured him. And the equipment? I'm signing off on new vacuums, carts, and supplies today. No more working with broken tools. Maria exhaled slowly, as if she had been holding her breath for years. You mean it? Owen met her gaze. I've seen it with my own eyes. No one should have to work under these conditions. That stops now. Dana shook her head in disbelief. So what now? You just fix everything overnight? Owen gave a small nod. Some things, yes. Others will take time. But I promise you, I'm not walking away from this. The weight in the room shifted. For the first time, There was something other than exhaustion in their eyes, hope. Owen spent the next few hours making calls. The regional hiring manager was stunned when he instructed them to immediately fill the open positions. The procurement team was given an urgent order to replace broken equipment and restock supplies. He even reached out to corporate HR to begin wage evaluations. But he wasn't done yet. By the afternoon, he gathered the remaining hotel supervisors in the conference room. They had heard about Lucas's firing, and their nervous energy was palpable. Owen didn't waste time. Let me make one thing clear. This hotel is not going to be run the way it was under Lucas. If anyone here has been following his lead, pushing staff to exhaustion, ignoring complaints, you will not last here. A few managers shifted uncomfortably. Owen continued. I'm implementing new policies. Breaks will be enforced. Overtime will be optional, not expected. And if I hear about anyone mistreating staff, they will be gone. One of the assistant managers, a woman named Rachel, hesitated before speaking. Sir, some of us have been trying to push back against the way things were run. But Lucas, she trailed off. Owen nodded. I understand. That's why I'm not making assumptions about anyone. But moving forward, things will be different. And if you can't get behind that, you're free to leave now. No one moved. Owen wasn't surprised. Most of them had likely been too afraid to challenge Lucas before. Now they had no excuse. Once the meeting ended, he sought out Maria. She was in the linen room, neatly folding fresh sheets. When she saw him, she straightened. Owen studied her for a moment. I want you to be part of the leadership team here. Maria blinked. What? You know this hotel better than anyone. You care about the staff. I need people like you making decisions. Maria hesitated. I've never been in management. Owen smiled slightly. That's exactly why I want you. You know what it's like to be on the floor doing the real work. I don't need another corporate manager. I need someone who understands what it takes to keep this place running the right way. Maria's expression was unreadable for a moment. Then slowly she nodded. All right. If it means making things better, I'll do it. Owen extended his hand. Then we have a deal. Maria shook it firmly. As Owen walked through the hotel that evening, he saw the difference already taking shape. Staff moved with a little less tension in their shoulders. Conversations were lighter. And for the first time since arriving, he felt like the place wasn't just surviving, it was healing. He had come undercover to uncover the truth. And now he was making sure no one ever had to go through what Maria and the others had endured again. Owen stood in the hotel's back office, staring at the reports spread across the desk. Hiring was already underway. The first shipment of new equipment was set to arrive within days. Salaries were being reviewed. The changes were happening fast, but he knew that fixing the damage Lucas had done wasn't just about money or staffing, it was about trust. He needed to make sure the staff believed this wasn't just another temporary corporate promise. Maria stepped into the office, still adjusting to the idea of her new role. She had spent most of the day shadowing the assistant managers, learning how things operated from the top down. There was hesitation in her stance, but also determination. The first batch of new hires are coming in tomorrow, she said, setting a clipboard down on the desk. I want to make sure they get proper training. We never had time for that before. Owen nodded. Make it a priority. They need to know they're valued from day one. Maria exhaled, folding her arms. The others are still wary. They're waiting to see if this is real or if things will go back to the way they were once corporate stops paying attention. Owen leaned forward, resting his hands on the desk. Then we prove it to them. I want to hold a staff meeting. Not just managers, everyone. They need to hear from me directly. Maria tilted her head slightly. You sure? They're not going to hold back. That's exactly what I want. By late afternoon, the meeting was set. The entire staff, from housekeeping to front desk employees, crowded into the largest conference room. Some leaned against the walls, arms crossed, watching him with guarded expressions. Others sat with hands clasped, waiting. Owen stood at the front, scanning the faces before speaking. I know you have every reason to doubt what's happening right now. I don't blame you. You've been overlooked, overworked, and ignored for too long. A few nods rippled through the room. Dana, standing near the back, muttered something under her breath. Owen continued. I came here undercover because I didn't trust the reports I was getting. I needed to see the truth for myself. And what I saw, it wasn't just bad business. It was unacceptable. He let his words settle before going on. Changes are already happening. New hires start tomorrow. Equipment is being replaced. Salaries are under review. But none of that matters if you don't believe in it. So tell me what else needs to change. For a moment, silence. Then, Reggie spoke up. Accountability, he said, arms still folded. You can fire one manager, but what about the next one? How do we know this won't happen again in a year? Owen met his gaze. Because I'm putting new oversight in place. Maria is stepping into a leadership role and I'll be making unannounced visits to different locations. No one is going to get away with what happened here again. Maria straightened at the mention of her name. A few employees exchanged surprised glances. Dana lifted her chin. What about sick leave? You know how many people came in sick because they were too scared to lose their jobs? Owen's jaw tightened. That stops now. No one should have to choose between their health and their paycheck. We'll be revising policies to make sure sick leave is guaranteed. A few murmurs spread through the crowd, quieter this time. Then, a woman near the front, a housekeeper who had been silent until now, spoke up. We need support from management. Not just rules on paper. We need to know they actually care. Owen nodded. That's why I'm restructuring leadership. The people in charge need to be the ones who understand the work you do, not just the numbers on a spreadsheet. More reactions rippled through the room, but something shifted. The skepticism hadn't disappeared, but it wasn't as sharp. A few people, like Maria and Dana, seemed cautiously optimistic. Others still held back, waiting to see if actions would match words. After the meeting, as the staff dispersed, Maria lingered. You handled it well, she said. Owen shook his head. It's not about handling it. It's about following through. Maria studied him for a moment before nodding. Then I guess we have a lot of work to do. Owen glanced around the hotel, the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. Yes, he said quietly. We do.